Good morning, students. My name is Glen de Silva. I am Assistant Professor and Head Department of Mass Communication and Journalism, and I teach students television production. In today's class, we are going to discuss about television production and what are the different phases in television production. If you are aware, television production has got three particular phases. The first phase is what we call as pre-production, production, and post-production. Everything that happens before the actual production, that is, before the actual shoot, is called as pre-production. And the actual shoot is called as production, and everything that happens after the shoot is called as the post-production. Now, what do you think could be the different steps that happen in pre-production, in production, and post-production is what we will study today. So, I will be teaching you about exactly what happens in pre-production. If we go to the first slide, we look at pre-production. So, the production preparation phase is called as pre-production. And production efficiency is determined to a large extent by how well prepared you are. In fact, we learn that if you are more well prepared in your pre-production, then your production and post-production is going to be much more easier and smoother. We will not find it difficult. So, the more amount of time and effort that you spend in pre-production will actually help you in your production and post-production. And what are the pre-production? What does it include? The first thing is preparing the schedule. Second is making an equipment checklist. And third is the edit preparation. So we will be discussing all these three aspects in a little more detailed manner. So let's go to the next slide. First is preparing the schedule. So the first point here, what we are talking about is research timeline. Students, if you notice, any production that you do, any television production. Now, television production can be anything. We can watch a television news bulletin, you can watch a game show, you can watch a debate, you can also, maybe you'll watch a dance program. Any program that you watch on television, there needs to be a research done. Because research is the foundation of any program. But as part of your pre-production, we should have a research timeline. There should be a deadline towards which you work. The next aspect is what could be the sources. Now, suppose you're going to make a program on dance show. And the title of the program is what we call as, say, the Dances of India. And you want to showcase the different dance forms which are there in our country. So what we have to do, we have to do our research. What could be our different sources wherein you would like to have more information about the different dance forms in our country. Suppose, if you take India, we have Kuchipudi, you have Bharatanatyam, you have Kathak. Now, these are the different dance forms. And you are planning to make a television show showcasing these different dance forms. Now, what are the sources of doing our research? One could be, of course, we have internet. Now, Google is one of our service providers. We get much of the information from Google. Like what are the different dance forms? Why are they significant? When did they start? In which place it is, where it is actually done. Like for instance, Bharatanatyam might have been Tamil Nadu. Kuchipudi is from Andhra Pradesh. Or if you take Kathak, maybe it is from Odisha. So different places or have different sources, origins where the dance form has originated and what are the dance forms. So if you're doing a research timeline, the sources, it could be internet, it could also be from our library, it can be some research that you can do from your journals. You can also do research from newspapers. You must always gather information about these particular dance forms. Okay, these are the sources. The next one is leads. Now, suppose as part of your TV show, you want to show some lead dancer in Bharatanatyam or a lead dancer in Kuchipudi. You need to build a contact. You need to get in touch with that particular person because you're going to shoot that person. So what happens is you need to build your leads and also your contacts. So the more you are prepared when it comes to your sources, your leads and your contacts, your pre-production phase is actually gaining foundation. You're building up the foundation of your research work. Okay. Then students, after you get this information from speaking to these different people, getting to know from them, you will have what we call as the first draft of a shoot. Because before going to any shoot, you need to have some kind of a script is necessary. Otherwise, you will be shooting just in air. So after the information that you have gathered from your different sources, you will put it all together and you will prepare what we call as a shooting script. Now from the shooting script till the final shooting script, it will take many drafts. You should not get disappointed, like, after the first draft, you should not say, okay, this is the draft. And you go to your creative head or you go to your supervisor and show him the script, show him or her the script. They might ask for some changes. So definitely you need to be prepared as part of the progress of the script to make changes in the script. But you need to have a deadline. Otherwise you will continue to be writing research, writing your shooting script, that will not end. You need to have a deadline. So you have a script writer who will actually help you in writing the script. Then you'll have a director and a producer. Director is the person who will actually make sure that the program that you have in your mind is conceptualized and it will finally take shape into a TV program. The producer is the person who will oversee the entire the shoot and also make sure that the money, the finances are also taken care of. The director will focus on the creative part of a television production, and the producer can be both. He can also be a director. At the same time, he will also take care of the finance bit of a particular program. Then the next part is what we call as recce and scouting. Recce or scouting is nothing but location hunt. Now, as we just discussed, suppose you're going to do a shoot on the different dance forms, definitely you would like to go and find out, suppose your first episode is about Kuchipudi. You would like to go to the particular village. There is a village in Andhra Pradesh called as Kuchipudi, where the dance form has originated. You would like to go there, you would like to locate that particular place, you would like to find out the history of the place, do a little recce, find out the actual locations of the place. Or same, you would like to go to you might go to some place in Tamil Nadu or in Odisha. So scouting or location hunting is also very, very important. The more you are familiar with the place, it will help you when you actually go for your actual shoot. The next point is coordination with cast and crew. Now you would like to coordinate with the crew. Now the main people, when you go for a television production shoot, the main people definitely would be the camera person, the assistants, and then also the lighting team. So you need to coordinate and bring this particular team on board when you're going for an actual shoot. You need to know who is the best person to shoot, who would be the best camera person who will give you what is visually appealing shots. So you will decide on a cast and a crew also. Cast could be an anchor person. Now going back to, if suppose we imagine that they're going to do a series on dance shows, you would like to have an anchor person. Okay, you need to coordinate with the anchor person, making sure that this anchor person will read out his or her lines in front of the camera on live location, and then make sure that the program comes, is finally made into a real TV program. The next is availability of actors. You will also see locations, equipment and funds. Now these are very important because some of the shoots that you take place, you will have different production teams which will be working at different levels. So you need to make sure that your necessary equipment is available. So let's look at the availability of actors. In this case, maybe the availability of the anchor persons, whether they are there or not. We have to check their dates. And also availability of the location. Suppose the location that you intend to shoot might be booked by another team. So you need to make sure that the location is also available. Equipment. You might need a particular kind of a camera for shooting that particular scene. So is that equipment available or not? And most important is funds. Do you have the money? You have to make sure that you have funds that are ready so that you can go on a shoot. Now another important thing is the planning that we do should always be flexible. You cannot restrict yourself or have what we call as a stubborn kind of a planning. You need to be little flexible because there can always be some kind of an emergency or an exigency that can come up, because of which you should plan in such a way that any emergency that comes in should always be adapted into the system, and you should be flexible in your dates or flexible in your equipment. You should be a little flexible. The next thing, as we just mentioned, was there will always be some kind of emergencies or exigencies. To meet that, you need to make sure that your planning is flexible. Suppose you're shooting at a certain location and you need to be at that location for an early morning sunrise shot. Sunrise shot, say, is around 6 a.m. If you say at 6 a.m. So you need to leave wherever you're residing to reach the location before 6 a.m. You have to be there by 5:30. That means you'll have to work backwards. You need to make sure that you leave the place that you reside or the place you stay around 4 o'clock, 4:30, because in between anything can happen. You might have a flat tire, you might have, any event can happen. So you need to make sure that you start ahead of time, and so that any kind of emergency, it can be met. Okay, now let's go to the next slide as we continue with preparing the schedule. Is what we call as the equipment checklist. Now, before you go for any shoot, you need to make sure that you have an equipment checklist. Now, a checklist is very, very necessary for production. This is especially because it would mean that you would not miss out on any equipment. See, different production houses, like as you said, news agencies or film productions will have different formats. Any place that you step into when you start working, there will be different formats. That an equipment checklist will definitely have what are the different types of cameras that are available in your production house, what are the different kinds of lights, what are the different kinds of audio equipment, what are the different kind of connectors. Now this equipment checklist has to be ticked by you. Like, you need to make sure what equipment you need for that particular shoot. Now suppose, as we were discussing about, if you're going to do a program on the dance forms, you would like to have a certain kind of a camera with a certain type of lens. You might want to have a wide angle lens, or maybe you have a specialized equipment that is required. That should be mentioned in the equipment checklist. Now this is very, very important, especially when it comes to field productions. Field productions would mean when you're traveling to a different place, you are on a different place, you are not on your it's not in a studio. So you might not have accessibility, or the equipment would not be available. Some small things like a connector, like an adapter, like a power cord. Now these things are very important. You need to make sure that this equipment is there along with you when you are on a shoot. So what helps you? It is the equipment checklist that will help you to make sure that all the equipment that is necessary for the shoot will be taken by you. We also need to see what about the VTR status. Suppose if it is a shoot which also you need to have the videotape recorder, you need to see whether it is actually working or not. You need to cross-check and cross-verify your equipment. Okay, sometimes some of the lights that you're going to carry along, whether the lights are working or not, you need to just plug it in, switch on the power, and make sure that the light is functioning. After you reach a location, if the filament conks or the light doesn't come up, you'll be in trouble. So make sure that you kind of cross-check every equipment that you carry. Now let's go to the next slide as we continue with the equipment checklist. You also need to see the power supply status. The place that you would be going for your shoot might have power, might not have power, and you might be carrying batteries. Now you need to make sure that the batteries are charged enough, so that when you go on location, you don't have to interrupt your shoot because the batteries are not charged. Next, are they fully charged? Now if there is a household supply, do you have a power supply? Do you have an adapter? Which is very important that you need to carry that. Now also, before leaving for the field location, check that the connecting cables from the power supply fits the jack on the equipment. What it simply means is, every cable that you carry, every connector that you carry for the shoot, you need to cross-check and verify that they are compatible with each other. Nowadays, we have small connectors or adapters which you can use. So make sure that you carry enough adapters, wherein in case there are different cables that are used, you can always adapt them. Do not try to make a connector fit if it is not designed into that particular jack. So you need to make sure that you carry the correct equipment. The equipment checklist definitely will help you in planning your shoot in your pre-production. If we go to the next slide, what about the memory cards? Now most of you nowadays, we shoot digital, and we also have our memory card. Now all of our shoots happen digitally, so we have to carry memory cards. Now we need to make sure whether we are carrying enough memory cards in the first place, especially if you're going to shoot outdoor and it is away from the city, wherein you don't have accessibility to a memory card. It's a simple small piece, but it's a very important and a pivotal piece when it comes to shooting. Make sure that you carry enough number of memory cards. And if you're shooting it through multiple cameras, wherein the memory cards are fixed into different cameras, make sure that you carry enough number of memory cards also. And another important thing is you need to make sure, does the memory card have enough space? Because what would happen is, if the memory card doesn't have enough space that is there, according to the shoot that you're planning, that would mean that you would be running out of space. Another important thing is you need to make sure that these particular memory cards have to be kept in a certain place which is safe, which is secure, and which you can always trace back as quickly as possible. Last step that we have when it comes to preparing ourselves in pre-production is preparing also for the edit. You need to make sure that you prepare the editing script. In the editing script, if you are shooting a documentary, what you would have is, you will have some interviews. Now these interviews have to be transcribed, they have to be typed. And sometimes they also need to be translated. If it is in a language which is other than English, you need to translate that particular interview and you need to transcribe it, because it is going to help you while you're going to prepare your edit script. Then you also need to make sure that the video file number should be mentioned on your edit script. The video file number, because it is very easy to track the OK shot, the shot which you have okayed during the shoot. So you need to also mention the video, the file number. In case you're going to use some music, audio tracks, sound effects, graphics, anything should be mentioned on the editing script. Now suppose, as we were discussing about the different dance forms in our country, now you're going to do something about Kuchipudi or Bharatanatyam, you would be using audio tracks. So you need to make sure that if you have a special audio track for that particular segment, you need to make sure that it is mentioned. Music by so-and-so artist, this particular music, you have to mention it on your editing script. Now all the folders should be properly labeled and it should be saved in the project bin. Now this is very important because in some of the production houses that you will be working, you will have multiple teams which will be working on multiple projects. So you need to make sure that your project has to be carefully and properly labeled. All the footage that you get should be properly labeled and it should be kept in one particular bin. In fact, we advise that a copy of that same footage is also made in your personal hard drive, so that in case anything happens, unfortunate incident, your footage is safe with you. You have it in your hard drive. So make sure that all folders should be properly labeled and saved in the project bin. Now when it comes to, all of us will be editing on non-linear edit systems. So this makes it very, very easy because you have the flexibility of using the choice of your shots, the choice of music is you are very, very comfortable and it's very adaptable. So since you're going to edit on non-linear editing system, we ask you that students should be able to use different kinds of transitions, different kinds of effects, but at the same time making sure that your project is saved and properly labeled. Now in non-linear editing, the advantage is you will be able to edit at a quicker pace and you will be able to deliver the project much in advance or in a much more quicker way. So dear students, in closure, I would like to say these are the different steps that you need to take before you go for your actual shoot. One is making sure that you have your equipment checklist, you have your shooting script ready, and also finally, before you go for your edit, making sure that you're prepared even for editing. Thank you for attending and joining my class.